want to thank all of you at Civil Beat and the Davis Democracy Initiative here. And I was so shocked when I got the email to take part in this part of this Kupuna panel, thinking, I'm not a part of the Coop Troop. I'm too young for this. And then I had to calculate my brain. Oh no, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, and that's it. And you know, sometimes I tell my students, you know, I was born in the territory of Hawaii, and they ask me, where's that? I said it was a real nice place. It didn't have, you know, the H1, and we would go to Hanauma Bin. There was nobody there, but we'd never go down. And they go, why did you go down? I said, well, it's too far. And so, you know, the territory of Hawaii was a wonderful place. But I was born not too far from here, the Keaulana Maternity Hospital. And that's a pretty old name, yeah, for that place. At 5:42 a.m., and my family lived up here in Manoa Valley. At that time, there was no Manoa Gardens, and was all forest in the back and farms where Manoa Gardens is. And Manoa Elementary School is still kind of new because it used to be by where the fire station is. And so I was born and raised in that in this wonderful valley. And my maternal grandmother, though, she lived in Makahan, Upena Street, on the beach. No, I mean, she wasn't homeless kind on the beach. She lived in a house on the beach. And it was such a wonderful, she was a pure Hawaiian woman. And she spoke beautiful Hawaiian and beautiful English. You know, a lot of the Hawaiians did not speak Pidgin in those days. And we were always reminded that, you know, Pidgin was not spoken in the house. And my mom, I was the one that spoke with such an atrocious Pidgin, and I just annoyed my mother to no end. But my grandmother, that's the first time I think those were about the first sounds I ever heard, were those wonderful Hawaiian words that came out of my grandmother's mouth. And I think she was kind of intrigued that I tried you know, answer her. And so, you know, we would do this kind of baby talk and whatever. But she passed away when I was about 5 years old. But I'm going to get back into Hawaiian when I'm about 9 years old with my hula and mele mother, Mrs. Adeline Lee. And I just saw on PBS, you folks remember the Pauhana Years series? Yeah, isn't that such a wonderful series, because they just released a 1973 show with Mrs. Eleanor Heavey, and there is Adeline Lee singing. And just to see her beautiful Hawaiian face and her lovely, clear soprano voice, it brought back so many wonderful memories. But her father was Thomas Maunupau, who was a Hawaiian language and culture expert. And so she was one of 12 children. And so they had a very, very Hawaiian upbringing, and her family and friends liberally spoke Hawaiian. And so I got back into it again. And amongst those family and friends were people who told wonderful Hawaiian stories. And so I grew up listening to these stories. But you know, when the old-timers did not want you to understand, that's when they would stop speaking English and speak in another language. And whether it was Hawaiian or Japanese, Chinese, whatever it is, they didn't want you to understand. They're going to talk in another language. And I think they did this because they felt safe when they spoke in Hawaiian about Hawaiian things, and other Hawaiians who grew up with Hawaiian things, they wouldn't think you're crazy. So they told wonderful stories about night marches and other things. And they didn't mind if I was around, because they really didn't know that I knew what they were talking about. And it was so wonderful. And so, you know, I grew up, you know, listening to all kinds of stories. And one of the stories that I remembered, was kind of forced to remember, happened in 1999, when Hawaiian Electric Company wanted to build from the Kailua power plant and come across Wa'ahila Ridge with their lines and come into Palolo Valley and hook up at the Pukele plant. And so they had to do a cultural impact statement. And this was really interesting because they interviewed like 123 people. And then somebody had told him, did you talk to that bullethead man that lives up in Manoa? His name is Kimo Keaulana. And I still remember her name. Her name was Kaohulani Maguire. And she was doing and collecting all the memories of people who could tell about old Manoa. And so she called me. We had landlines in those days. You remember landlines where your phone was stuck to the wall and you didn't want anybody to hear, but your cord only went so far, and that was it. And so she was really nice. And so she said she wanted to come and talk to me. So I said, come. So she came to our house at 3319 Halilani Drive in Manoa, just a block past the Manoa Elementary School. And then she came upstairs to where I was. And I know I was like person 124. But she was so kind and gracious. And she sat down and she had a nice look on her face. And, you tell me about Manoa, and I did. I told her about Queen Ka'ahumanu's house. I told her about the winds in the valley. And just when she was there, the Tuahine rain was falling on the west side. I said, come to the window, come, look. And that rain was just like a chiffon curtain going across the mountains. And I'm telling her the story of why they're running away and all these kinds of things. And then I did some, chants and parama ukulele and sang Hawaiian language Manoa songs for her. And I told her, I want to show you something. So the rain kind of cleared up, and I took her to the sidewalk, and I told her to face Wa'ahila Ridge. And I said, you see that figure in the mountain? He's lying down looking up. Kids can see these things. But when you're an adult, you're going, how, where is this? Not what? And so finally she got it. So I said, his name is Kauhi. And that is Oahu's sleeping giant. And so I started to tell her about the story of Kahalaupuna and how Kauhi got up there. And then she told me, of all the people she interviewed, they could only go back as far as maybe the 1930s. But I knew the legends and the names of the rains and all kinds of stuff. She said, can I come back and bring my a tape recorder and record you again? So I said, fine. This was November. And I remember it was November because I told her to come back the day after Thanksgiving, which was on a Friday. And she came, and I repeated what I told her and sang for her and chanted for her and about the story of Kahalaupuna and how Kauhi got into the mountains. Because she said part of the research was, they read, I think about 2 or 3 different versions of Kahalaupuna, but none of them mentioned about Kauhi and lying in the mountains and how he got there. And so she went back, I guess, and she did her cultural impact statement thing. Then I got another phone call about a month later, I think, on my landline. And what's so fun about landlines is there's no ID on it. So you don't know who's calling. And I answered the phone. I wanted to drop because on the other end of the phone was Mrs. Mary Cook. And I had, living in Manoa, you pass these places a million times, but you never go there, like Punahou School. I passed Punahou School countless times thinking, I'd never end up here. And that's another story. But anyway, Mary Cook called me and she said she wanted to have lunch with me. So she invited me over to her home. And I went, oh my gosh, I was all futless. And I think that's the word only local people understand. You're futless. So I was all futless. And I was driving this Nissan or something. You have to duct tape your car. The kind of car you drive, you can see the road from inside your car. So I drive to her lovely home. And then she brings me into her home, and it's beautiful, big, spacious kitchen, everything. And so she brings out this report, which is about, I would swear it was about like 5 inches thick, and she had the page marked. And there was my interview with Kaohulani Maguire. And I mean, it was in fine print practically. And I swear Mary Cook read every word in that report. But she had said, you know this story about Kahalauna? She said, I think this is going to be something. And we don't want those power lines to come across Wahila Ridge. It's going to be a blight to the valley. And we have an organization called Malama o Manoa. And she said, we want to malama this valley. And so she asked if I would help them. I said, well, of course I would. And so this was in the back of my mind for quite a while. Then on Christmas Eve in 1999, I'm going to sit in front of my IBM Selectric 2. It's all the old bags. Yeah, I remember that. And I put in 2 sheets. You got to put in 2 sheets of typing paper. And I'm rolling it up. And I started to type out the story in as much detail as I could about Kahalauna. And it came out to like about 10 or 12 pages, you know. And I said, oh, gosh, this is really nifty. And so I put a little thing in the front attesting that this is the story I remembered, and I signed it. And then I went to go and have it a Xerox copy made of it. So after Christmas had come and gone, I had given this story to Mary Cook, and I told her, this is the story in as much detail as I can get, and how Kauhi gets up there in the mountains because he lied. And he tried to bludgeon Kahalauna to death. And so he was found guilty, and so he was punished to face his heavenly court forever in the sky. So that's how come he's lying there looking upwards to heaven. And so I didn't realize that this story would actually lead to trying to find every landowner in Manoa who owned land up against Wahila Ridge, because I didn't know, you know, if you bought a house below the mountain ridge, you know, you own the land going all the way up. I didn't know that. But their attorneys knew that. So they had to track down every single landowner to see if they would relinquish the title to their land so that they can claim that entire ridge actually as a culturally historic site. It took a long time. And my name came in the paper too. Again, I got off thoughtless because, what? They're calling me a Hawaiian cultural expert. I went, oh, all of a sudden, you know, oh, okay. First I was Kumu Hula, now Hawaiian culture expert, and then, I'm a Hawaiian music historian. Wow, this is really nifty. People calling me all kinds of stuff now, and nice stuff for a change. And so this became a heated battle with Hawaiian Electric. And then I remember they wanted me to show up in court, and they wanted to put me on the witness stand for this story. And I told them, evidently you got a copy of the story that I, did on my IBM Selectric 2. And I said, I signed it. Are you looking at my signature there? And then the attorney said, oh yeah, we are. I said, I know what you want to do. You want to put me on that witness stand to say that this is only a fairy tale. I said, as us Hawaiians, we know that's Kauhi in those mountains. And don't make a fool out of me. And all the kupunas that told me these stories and shared this with me, because we know this to be true. And so, very involved and long story short, this was the very first case that Hawaiian Electric had lost. And you will never find a power line or anything else to deface Manoa Valley. Thank you. Then when I was teaching at Honolulu Community College, I started to teach this writing intensive course called Hawaiian Literature in English. And I always told my students, the power of a story is very, very valuable. And I'm teaching this course because of the story that saved the valley. And stories will, give us our sense of place so beautifully. And don't ever discount what you hear, because you never know the value and worth of it. And I think growing up with wonderful people, when I was 16 years old, I composed a song. And then I was forced to enter it in the Hawaiian song composing contest. I was forced to because they said, if I didn't enter it, they're going to have to cancel the whole contest because of the lack of entries. My gosh. And because I was born and raised Catholic, I got guilty real quickly. I remember, and then I was baptized at Sacred Heart Church right across the street, but then St. Pius X opened in Manoa. And you folks remember Monsignor Charles Kekumano? Yeah, I was his altar boy. And the Mass was in Latin at that time. So every Tuesday and Thursday, another altar boy, Robin Leong, and I would go to the rectory to go and memorize the prayers in Latin and the whole Mass. And just when we memorized everything, they changed the Mass to English. I'm telling you. This is a song I composed while I was cleaning house in Manoa. And my mother had this clunky old Filter Queen vacuum cleaner. The canister, takes two people to pull it. I opened that picture window and it was a beautiful Manoa day. So I'm humming along with the Filter Queen vacuum cleaner and making words to this song. And so I did enter the Hawaiian Songwriting and Composing Contest that was sponsored by the City and County of Parks and Recreation. And the song won 3rd place. I know. It was juice. Nah, but no, I entered 2 songs and my other song won 1st place. And nobody ever heard that song, really. It's this one they do. And this song is called Nani Mano, simply Nani Mano, which means Mano is so beautiful. And the judges were Mr. John K. Almeida, Mrs. Bina Mossman, and Auntie Hilo Hattie, and Mr. George Ho'okano, who was with the Royal Hawaiian Band at that time. So I guess I am a kupuna. Here. E nani o manoa vehi kaua kaua tua hine kupa o ka'aina. Every Hawaiian song is a story, and there's stories behind these songs too. And I simply say that Manoa is such a beautiful valley, especially when she is dressed up in the rain. And Hawaiians have called this rain the tuahine, which means sister. And the tuahine has been here for many, many generations. Ui maoli o akaka, kau mai I luna, me Hawaii a napa aon, vai a ke a kua. And so I say that if you look in the back of the valley, so very, very pretty are the mountains that we call Akaaka. And in the eastern corner of the valley, you're going to find a waterfall that the god Kane gave as a gift to the Manoa Valley, called Waiakeakua, or water of the god Kane. O kapi o ana mai, o ke anu e, kahi ko nani noia kahui, kalani kela kela. And on beautiful, rainy, but sunny Manoa days, you will see the graceful arching of a Hawaiian rainbow, so high up in the sky. And that rainbow was placed by God's hands as an adornment and a symbol for our valley of Manoa. Ha'ina ia mai, hana kapuana, e nani o Manoa vehi, I kaua tuahine. And so now ha'ina means I tell you my story of my childhood days, growing up in such a beautiful, fanciful place, and all the beauties of Manoa. And she's especially beautiful, all dressed up in the rain. I kaua tuahine. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Well, after Hawaiian Electric Company lost, but the whole valley won, I left Manoa. In 2004, I moved permanently to Nanakuli, where I live today. But in 2019, the valley that I called home called me back, right here to Punahou School. And the story of Kahalauna, well, look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing hala. And this is ours. And isn't that interesting how life comes in full circle? And so I'm back. Cherish all the stories you've ever heard in your life. Mahalo.